We continue now at the top of Daf Mem Hey Amud Aleph in Meseches Bava Basra. This is Bava Basra Daf 45a. On the previous Amud, the Gemara brought the statement of Ravin bar Shmuel in the name of Shmuel. Let's say a mocher, he sells a piece of property, shelo ba'achrayis to a lokeach, so he really has no responsibility. If a ma'arer comes, if someone protests and comes and says it never belonged to the mocher, so really the mocher is not going to have to pay anything. He has no direct responsibility. Maybe you would think that he's allowed to testify on behalf of the lokeach, but we say no, he's not allowed to testify on behalf of the buyer because it's possible that he has a creditor and the creditor is going to go ahead and collect from that piece of property. But if the ma'arer takes the property, the creditor will not be able to collect from that property. So it's advantageous to him to say that it did belong to him, even though right now it doesn't have any direct benefit to him because it's shelo b'achrayis. On the sale, he took no responsibility, but he wants to say, he does have a bias over here, he wants to say that it really does belong to the lokeach, so that a Baal Chov, his creditor, will be able to collect from it. And the Gemara now clarified, the Gemara asked in the previous Amud, hey chidami, what exactly is the situation? And the Gemara now continues, Idi islay ara achrisi, if the person, meaning the mocher, has other land of his own, so then oled didei hadr, so then it doesn't make a difference because the creditor is going to get the land that is in the hands of the mocher. He's not going to go to property with a lien on it that's in the hand of a buyer, and so therefore it should make no difference in that situation. There's no benefit to the mocher by testifying. And ida lesle arachrisi, now if he doesn't have any other land, so he can't pay anyways, so my nafkale mino, what difference does it make to him? Let's say the creditor is able to go collect from the property with a lien on it from the buyer, or he's not able to collect. It makes no difference. There's nothing to collect from the mocher anyway, so what does the mocher care in that situation? So really, why is the mocher considered to have self-interest? Why is there considered to be a bias in his testimony? And the Gemara answers, Liolam de lesle arach risi. Really, the case is that the mocher, the seller, has no land, and therefore, again, what is his issue? Who cares? Why does he want the property to be considered that it was his, and now it's the lokeach's that a creditor should collect? The Amr, because he says, Lo nicha de lahave lo v'rosh v'lo yeshalim. He says, it's not good for me that I should be somebody who borrows and is a wicked person and doesn't pay back. A wicked person who borrows and doesn't pay back is not something that this person wants to be called. He doesn't want to be referred to as a rasha, and so therefore he would rather say that this land does in fact belong to the lokeach so that the creditor can get paid back. But the Gemara still says, sof, but still at the end, Lagabe idach nami, lo v'rasha v'lo yeshalimhu. But in terms of the person who bought it from him, this lokeach just bought property from him, and he sold it without taking any responsibility, so isn't he a rasha to that person? Now the creditor is going to come along, and the creditor is going to take the property, and he's not going to pay that person back, so that's also the same issue. He's still a rasha. And the Gemara says it's not the same. D'Amar, because there he can say, L'hachi zvini lach shelo b'achrayis. That's why I sold it to you, and I took no responsibility. That was the whole point. I was upfront about this possibility, essentially, and so therefore that he doesn't care about as much. And the Gemara continues, Machriz Rava announced, Viteim Rapapa, some say it was Rapapa that announced, the Solkin La'ela, those who go up, meaning those who go from Bavel up to Eretz Yisrael, with the Nochsin Latasan, those who go down, meaning those who go from Eretz Yisrael down to Bavel, they should all be aware of the following halacha. Hi bar Yisrael, dezavin lechamra liyisrael chavre. If a Jewish person sells a donkey to another Jewish person, his friend, v'ka'asi akam v'onis le'minei, and then a non-Jew comes and he coerces, he takes the donkey away from the buyer, so dinohu demafsi le'minei. That it's a proper din that this seller, the Jewish seller, he should try to do everything that he can to get that donkey back for the buyer. And the Rashbam explains, Dinahu de mafsi le kemo hapotza as David avdo mecherev ra. The word mafsi is like the word hapotza that's used in Tehillim. It means to rescue. He should try to rescue that donkey, get it back to the buyer. And the idea is v'yavi edim v'yodanim ma'akom. He should bring witnesses and take this non-Jew to court, again, to help the buyer get back this donkey. Ula yotzienu miyado da'akom tzaisi din. Maybe he'll be able to get it back because the non-Jew will listen to the law, will listen to the ruling. And the Rashbam notes, V'davka akum, this is only true if it's a non-Jew that takes it away. Aval ka'anis le Yisrael, but let's say it's a Jewish person who essentially steals it from the buyer. Lo mafsi le, so then he's not responsible, the mocher is not responsible to try to rescue. Eli yitvenu bedin, this buyer can just take him to court. Dein koach li Yisrael ligzol chamor mechaver below edim v'lo raya, because a Jew is not allowed to just steal a donkey from his friend without witnesses, without any evidence. He's going to need evidence. He'll need witnesses, and so therefore he will certainly lose in the court in that situation. This halacha over here, where he has to try to help out the lokeach, is specifically by the non-Jew. And the Gemara continues, V'lo amron, and this is only true, Ela she'eno makir ba shibas chamoro. If it's a case where the buyer does not recognize that this is the daughter of the seller's donkey, meaning to say this is the offspring, that it actually belongs to the seller, Avol makir ba shibas chamoro. But let's say the buyer recognizes that this really did belong to the seller. He understands that it was taken by the non-Jew unjustly, unjustly, so then no, there's no responsibility then for the seller to have to help the lokeach out to rescue this donkey. And the Rashbam explains, V'lo amar detzorech mocher lefatzos lokeach. We don't say that the seller has to help rescue the buyer. Ela she'in makir bo lokeach shi bas chamoro shel mocher. That's only if the buyer himself does not recognize that this is the offspring of the donkey of the seller. De'ikol amemer hadinim ha'akum, because then already you can say that that the non-Jew took it rightfully. And the Rashbam continues, Avol hikar ba v'chulu lo, but let's say he recognizes that it really is the seller's, and the non-Jew is acting inappropriately, so then the seller does not have to help out. We're just talking about a situation of regular thievery by the non-Jew. That's what we're saying, lo mi boy le lefatso, so he doesn't have to help rescue it. Kevon de dover yaduahu, because in this case it's a known matter, shegadlo bebeso shel mocher, that it was raised in the house of the seller, ustam ovid kochavim onasu, and in general we can assume the ovid kochavim is an onas, he's just a thief. Mistaber de shelo kedin onso akum, it makes sense that he did it unjustly, that the non-Jew took it away unjustly, and so therefore in that situation where it's pretty clear that what the non-Jew did was unjust, so the seller has no responsibility to help rescue it on behalf of the lokeach. And the Gemara continues along the same lines, this is only true in a situation where he didn't take the animal and also its saddle. But if the non-Jew took not only the animal but also the saddle as well, then again it looks like it's just unjust thievery, and so then again the seller does not have to help the buyer in terms of rescuing the donkey. And the Gemara continues, Amemar says, Afilu leka kolhani lo, even if you don't have any of these conditions, meaning to say, even in all these situations, it is not the responsibility ever of the seller to help rescue the donkey for the buyer. My time, and what's the reason why the seller is not responsible? Because in general, meida yoda, it's known, destam ovid kochavim onasu, that in general, in ovid kochavim, the non-Jew is going to be an anas, is going to be somebody who's coercing, who is forcing the situation and stealing what is not his. Shenemar, as it says, asher piem di bershav v'yamin it says that their mouths, they speak falsely, and so therefore we can assume that the Ovid Kochavim is taking it unjustly, and it's not the responsibility of the seller to help the buyer get it back. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. The Mishnah said, Uman ein lo chazaka v'chulu, and Uman is not able to make a chazaka. Normally by metaltalin, a person has possession of metaltalin, movable objects. That's a chazaka that shows that he is the owner, but that's not true by a craftsman, because he would receive these anyways to work on these kind of items, and therefore the Mishnah said he does not make a chazaka. And the Gemara says, Amar Rabba says, Lo shanu el shemasar lo be'edim. This is only true in a situation where the items were given over to the uman, they were given over to the craftsman with witnesses. So in such a situation, he's not able to make this chazaka. Avol masar lo shelo be'edim. But let's say the items were given over to the craftsman, but there are no witnesses that he was ever given the items. So there he's actually believed. Mitoch sheyachal lomar lo hayu dvar me'olam. Since he could have said to him, he could say, it never happened, you never gave me the items, and that would be a winning claim for the uman. So therefore, ki amar leinami lekuchi biyadi, when he also says that I actually bought this from you, that you did give it over to me, but you gave it over to me in the capacity of a purchase that I bought it, mehemen, he's going to be believed. That's what Rabba says. And the Gemara continues, Amar le Abaya. Abaya says, Hihachi, if so, if you're going to say that he has that migo, so afilu be'edim nami, even in a situation where it was given to him and there are witnesses that it was given to him, he also has a migo in that case. Mitoch sheyachal lomar lo hechzartiv lach, since he could say, I returned it to you, so ki amar le lekucha hi biyadi mehemen. So when he says to him that I bought it from you, so then also he should be believed. He should have a migo in that case as well. That's Abaya's question. Amar le Rabba, Rabba said back to him, he said back to Abaya, mi savrit do you think? And we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Memhei Amud Beis.